It's this mindset flip of having something to learn, not something to prove when it comes to our communication. And when we can apply a mindset of wanting to learn something, meaning I want you to get really passionate about the pursuit of the right question rather than trying to have the right response.
Hi, I'm Jess Rowe, and this is the Jess Rowe Big Talk Show, a podcast that goes big and deep to show you a different side to our guests in conversations about the things that truly matter. Do you want to get better at having hard conversations? I know that I do. And my guest, Jefferson Fisher, is the perfect person to give us some simple tools to communicate more effectively with those we love, with our colleagues at work, and also with people who push our buttons and don't respect our boundaries. Jefferson is a US trial lawyer. He has over 12 million social media followers thanks to his powerful lessons on communication. He's also a New York Times best-selling author, and Jefferson will be touring in Australia and New Zealand in July. Be sure to catch him in action. I think you'll love this soothing conversation with Jefferson, and this one is best enjoyed on YouTube, which you can find a link to in our show notes. Now, Jefferson himself has over 1 million followers on YouTube, so you can see what makes him so very popular. I learned so much in this conversation, and I can't wait to share it with you. Jefferson Fisher, to be talking with you, I instantly feel calmer. You sort of have this way about you. What is your secret?
For one, is having kids asleep right now here in the United States. It's past bedtime for them. And so that means you keep your voice really low. Second of all, I think it has a lot to do with who you've listened to a lot of your life. Like my dad is a very slow speaker. A lot of the guys in my family, they're not fast talkers. And I think it's also a little bit the southern part of the US. We tend to drawl our vowels a little bit more. So that's probably it.
Well, a little bit like Aussies. We like to drawl our vowels and sort of elongate sounds. You mentioned there your dad. Now, you're a fifth generation lawyer. And how is it that a trial lawyer becomes one of the world's biggest and most successful communicators?
Well, that's a tall order. It happens because of things that you never imagined, things you never saw coming. I never sought out at all to do any of this. And when I first started my own law firm, because I had been part of a bigger firm for about 15 years. And I thought, well, I think I want to try my own law firm. And I left, started to build it. And I thought, well, I need to be on social media. And what originally I made a few videos when video on social media was like brand new. And I thought, I need to talk about lawyer things and attorney things. And then it quickly pivoted to this, like, how can I just forget about telling people what I do? How can I just help them? How can I just talk about things that I'm passionate about in communication? And what if I were to tell them how I just spoke to an opposing attorney and handled this difficult conversation? What if I could teach them how I prepared my witnesses before they went into cross-examination, or how I wanted to speak with confidence to a jury? What if I took those moments and just shared those and kind of brought people along with me? And it's exploded to something I never thought in a very short amount of time.
And you have brought people along with you. You have over 12 million followers. But what you do is that you give us tools to have hard, difficult conversations. And I believe the way the world is at the moment, we need those tools. We need to be having more communication, less argument, more listening. Could you start by sharing with us how we can do that? What are those first steps to be having those hard conversations?
It's having a flip of the mindset. I'm really fascinated right now with kind of these paradoxes of life. That you think that the loudest person, the most aggressive person is the most confident. It's usually not. They're usually the most insecure. There are people who seek to have the most amount of money and they find out that they're the least happy. And there's all these like little bitty paradoxes. And one of those, one of the many in communication, is you think that proving your point, telling somebody they're wrong, is going to make them agree that you're right. And that never, and I use this word very cautiously, never happens, if ever. Instead, it's this mindset flip of having something to learn, not something to prove when it comes to our communication. And when we can apply a mindset of wanting to learn something, meaning I want you to get really passionate about the pursuit of the right question rather than trying to have the right response. And if you want to have better responses given to you, then you have to better your question. Like
I like that.
The best communicators that I know, the best attorneys that I know, it's not that they have the most pithy responses, the quickest comebacks. It's that they have the best questions. And when you can see questions as a pursuit of something, and if you can take listening as something that is active, not in the sense of like you're receiving it, but you're chasing after knowing more, it almost always ends up with this element of a full understanding. In law, they teach you to not only know your argument, but know the other person's argument better than you do. And if I can affirm how you're feeling, if I can acknowledge how you're feeling, have this sense of understanding, that's connection in communication rather than just saying you have to agree with me.
And curiosity, that pursuit of the right question, to me is very much about being curious about that person or the issue, as opposed to thinking, I've got to be right, I have to win this.
Yeah, curiosity is a wonderful thing. The thing about curiosity is that it's hard to be genuine about. You know, sometimes you really don't want to be all that curious. You know, you'd rather stick to what you know. You know, you'd rather them go ahead and get curious about why they're so wrong and you're so right. Get curious about that. And it's hard to do genuinely, but I find if I'm open more to the idea that I know very little about what's happening, the more I find it's this idea of, if you're coming to me with something and you're upset, and I've decided I already know why you're upset, I'm not really going to learn very much. But if I come into it with thinking there's something here that I just don't get yet, that I'm missing, then it becomes like I am looking for the piece of the puzzle. And that, to me, I can be genuine about, of me saying, okay, I actually am curious on the full picture of this. I don't have to be curious about your point. I can still disagree with you, but I can be open to learning about your perspective. That, I think, is something I can be genuine about.
And to be genuine about having a hard conversation, not running away from it. I'm someone who, I don't like conflict. And so often I'll veer away from that. And how can I show up and not be frightened of hurting someone's feelings? Because I want to be kind.
Then I would encourage you to take what you just said, that I want to be kind, and have a real honest look in the mirror of what kind is. There's a big difference between nice and kind. What I hear you really saying is, I want to be nice. I don't want to be mean to them. I want to be able to say things that sound nice. And that's a tricky position. You know, for example, Nice is concerned about the surface, the pleasantries, the niceties of things, manners, right? I can't say that. It's not very nice. Yeah, like, but it doesn't mean it's all good. Like, you ever been? Let's say you get back from a date, or one of your girlfriends back from a date, and you're like, "How was he?" And she's like, "Yeah, he was nice." Like, this probably didn't go that well, right? But if it's like this, like, I can't tell the truth because that's not nice. Kind says, I care about you, and because I care about you, I need to tell you the truth. This, and because I care about you, and because it's the kind thing to do, I'm going to have the hard conversation. And when you're always avoiding, I like to think of it as the conversation you're avoiding is the result that you're choosing. Meaning, if you don't have it, well, then that's what you're left with. It's not like you can just wish it to be something different. You have to have it. You have to have the conversation, or else it's always going to be there in your head. And when you can have the outlook that conflict is positive, it's net positive, usually in relationships, in friendships, in close conversations, that's the only way we grow. That's the only way we deepen. Like, you can't get on the other side of victory without the battle. Like, you can't get on the other side of connection and repair without first having the rupture. And so when you realize that there will be an end to it, I think there's a right way and a wrong way to go about conflict, but to know either way it's good, either way I'm going to learn something, either way we're going to get closer together. That's the kind of stuff that gets me excited.
I can tell. I look at you and you sort of start moving around. And so with advice for people who are listening, who are wanting to have a hard conversation about an issue that maybe in their relationship or in a close friendship, but they haven't wanted to bring it up because they're thinking, oh, this is a difficult conversation and I just want to ignore it. What are some simple steps to begin that?
One would be choose the right timing. There is a method to timing when it comes to conversations. You don't want to do it when you're busy, when you're stressed. It's usually not a good idea to do it when your battery's, what we say, in the red. You're 20% or below. You need to. There's a reason why. A lot of times, like judges, for example, that judge on cases, they will actually have more lenient rulings at the beginning of the day than at the end of the day. Like, there's a reason why we have our capacity for what we can tolerate, and that same amount of energy we put towards everything else in life, from digesting food to talking on the phone to walking, is the same exact energy we use for willpower, which is the same type of power you're going to need to get through that hard conversation. So one is picking the right timing. Two, focus really hard on your first two sentences. Usually, you want to, what I teach at least, is you want to label the conversation, what kind of conversation it's going to be. So rather than me starting it, or whoever's listening, rather than you starting the conversation with the context, which sounds like, hey, so you remember the other day when you, like, that leads them to this trail of, okay, what are we talking about? What's happening here? Are we good? Are we not good? I don't know. Label the conversation. Something as simple as, this is going to be a hard conversation. I need to have a hard conversation with you. I need to have a difficult conversation with you. Say what it is. It's as simple as that. And what it does is allow the other person to go, okay, like to ready themselves, prepare themselves for, okay, this is not the typical conversation, so I'm not going to treat it as such. This is not them asking me to pass the water or the salt or whatever. And three, I would really encourage that the quicker you can get to having the takeaway of what you're asking them to do, even if you're just asking them to listen, because we all know what it's like when you're listening to somebody and you go, what's the point? What are you, okay, and you're telling me this because it needs to be, I need to have a hard conversation with you. I want to talk to you about something that really matters to me. I'm concerned that you no longer care about X, Y, and Z. That's your thesis. That's it right there. Stop. All right. And then see, they're going to go, okay, what do you mean? And then you get to give that context, but don't start with the reverse.
Such good advice. Another tip of yours that I think so powerful is to let breath be your first word.
Yes. Yeah. I say, let your breath be the first word that you say. We get in this habit of feeling like the quicker we respond, somehow the better we do. And that's rarely the case. There's no bonus points for having the fastest response. In fact, it can really hurt you a lot of the times, not in the ways that you think, but it's when you have that really fast response to something somebody said, versus if you were to ask me a question and I take a breath, I think about it, and I go, that's a good question. There's several parts to this. It signals that I thought about it, I listened, I actually analyzed on what I'm about to say is going to be far more interesting and thought out than me just having some rapid fire response. And it's those people who are comfortable with the slow, comfortable with just a little bit of quiet, that tells you that there's not going to be too much that's going to shake them. Those are the people that are the leaders. Those are the people who we look to when things are emotionally charged. They're not going to be reactive in some way. They're the ones that feel really grounded and steady. And when you take that breath, it allows you to kind of regulate yourself in that moment. Ask yourself, who do you want to show up as? And it also regulates the other person.
And just with you doing that, Jefferson, as you were, I could see you taking the breath and your shoulders dropped. I could feel myself just in that moment. And
yeah, well, we mirror it. Yeah,
yes.
We mirror that frequency. Yeah.
And it's so simple, but we don't do it enough. And I think increasingly with the world being so loud and noisy and shouty, that power of
shouty, that's a good word, yeah.
Of silence.
It is.
And the pause is needed more than ever.
Well, if I slow down, you'll slow down. If I show you that there's nothing to fear, you have nothing to fear. It's we naturally mirror those frequencies of people. And so if I can come into the room like there's no issue, that even if there could be a tense moment, maybe there's a big decision and people are nervous about it, but I come in with the energy of, we're going to get through it. Everybody goes, I guess we're going to get through it. Like all of a sudden they mirror that same energy. So the more I can give you that calm, the better it's going to be. I do that if I'm cross-examining somebody. I'm going to talk to them just like this. And all of a sudden, how worked up they were that I'm going to be some big, bad, mean attorney, they go, oof. They relax, and they're going to give me more information, and it's going to be a much better conversation than if I'm trying to be some, something that I'm not.
Yeah, pushy and unpleasant. I'd like to be cross-examined by you. I think most people would be.
Yes. Yeah, we can make it happen.
When you come to Australia. One thing as well that you have some great advice around is setting boundaries. I'm hopeless at it. Again, I think that steps into my people-pleasing traits. And as I get older, I'm trying to do less of that. I think for a lot of women, we feel that we have to say yes to helping, showing up, doing things. How can we stop doing that, or more importantly, set those boundaries?
So I want to separate two things. One is this idea of saying no. The other is this idea of boundaries, which you can have a boundary around saying no to something, but boundaries are a little bit more broader than that. So for boundaries, the biggest thing is to be committed to the consequence of if and when it's violated. So I keep mine very basic because I like very practical, easy things to implement. So let's say you said something to me that was pretty disrespectful, right? And I need to put up a boundary. Hey, I don't tolerate that kind of stuff. The bad boundary is to say, hey, you can't talk to me like that. Do you hear how I started with the word you, which means you have all the power. I don't. I've given it all to you right then. Versus if I were to say, I don't respond to that kind of behavior. If you continue to speak to me that way, which is the condition, this is the end of the conversation. You see how I was like, I'm making it very clear. Instead of, don't raise your voice at me, it's, listen, I don't respond to that volume. If you continue to speak to me in that tone, this is the end of the conversation. I can keep it very, very basic, but see how I'm saying, I don't respond to that. Not, you can't do that to me. Very different, much more stronger of a boundary. Now, we switch to saying no. The problem is we usually say no, but. Oh my gosh, I'd love to. That sounds so great. But I can't because, I have X, Y, and Z, and, I have a dog and I have plants and, whatever. And you make up all these excuses. Well, instead of the no, but, and you want to give all the justification, scrap all of that and start first with the no. So let's say you invited me to go have coffee and I really don't want to. You seem nice, but like I can't. Yeah, it's not the right time. I got too many things on my mind. I would start with I can't. Period. Right? Then to the gratitude. Thank you so much for thinking of me. Thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate you thinking of me. Then you add the third element, kindness, which is simply, I hope it's an amazing time. Let me know how, if it's a new coffee shop, let me know how it is. I hope you have a great rest of your week. You see how I'm not giving you a problem to fix. A lot of times when we say like, no, I can't because, I have too much to do. So people hear that as a problem they need to fix. Like, oh, okay, well then we'll just make it really short. Or don't worry, then you don't have to do, like they tried to take
You
away
will change the day. We'll move the day.
Absolutely. Exactly. Because you've now made it a problem-solving mission for them, and they think they're making your life better by removing these problems that you put, when really you just should have said no because you didn't really want to.
And keeping it simple, that's what I need to do. You'd be proud of me, Jefferson, because last night I did have someone sending me a note asking for my help with something which I would have loved to have done, but I couldn't. And I did start with saying, I can't do that, full stop. It sounds like a wonderful event, all the best with it, think of me next time. And I felt...
Love it. Yeah.
But I was like, oh my goodness, I'm using your tips, and I've never really done that before. In the past, I would go down the rabbit hole of, oh, I'd love to, but I've been really busy and I've got this and this and this, and they don't need to hear that. And also, it takes too much energy from you to do that.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely takes too much energy, and it gets to where, first off, very proud of you. Awesome job. But it also, like, you ever had somebody give so long of an excuse? They're like, I just got this and I got this and I get this. And you're like, just tell me, you could have just told me no. Like it's you've given me so much that now I can tell it's an excuse. And now I'm kind of upset about it. Just next time, just tell me no. And so I'll tell you one that I like to use a lot is it's not in the cards for me this time. Like, it's not in the cards for me. That one I like because it keeps me from trying to say, like, call them out. It's just like, it's not in the cards for me this week. That I like. And I also like, I've promised myself. So I've promised myself I'm going to be home at this time. I've promised myself I'm going to be, really regimented about my eating choices or whatever it is, because people don't like to argue with promises that you've made. They don't want you to break them. And so if you say, I've made a promise to myself, that they're like, oh yeah, go for it. No, not a problem.
Oh, I'm going to use that one as well. We spoke as well about disrespect, how to deal with issues when someone is disrespectful to you. And this is a particular chapter in your book that I understand is quite a favourite part of your best-selling book about how to respond when someone is rude. What is your advice with that?
So number one, somebody's doing something that's rude or belittling in some way. They're saying something that's rude. I like to give it 5 to 7 seconds of nothing. Meaning they say something that's ugly. I just let it hang out there. And I'm just going to look at them. And it's going to be just enough time for it to feel really awkward for them. And then that's telling them that this isn't that fun. Like what they thought they were going to do didn't happen. And what I do then is I ask them to repeat it. I've never had anybody actually do that. They almost always try and capitulate in some way. They always, if I give it 5 to 7 seconds of nothing, and then I'll say, I need you to repeat that. I need you to say that again. And they don't, because now I'll put a big spotlight on their ugly, right? On the behavior that they thought I was going to respond to in a worse way. It's going to give them that hit of dopamine. And instead, I made it really not fun because they're not going to say it again because it didn't have the same effect. It's not going to, it lost all of its energy. It lost all of its fire. And now it's just going to be a big wet blanket. You know, so now usually this is where they like apologize and what I meant to say was, and if I need to, I like to respond with the did you mean? So this is a great tool for a lot of different things. If somebody's saying something you think is in some way rude or offensive, is you respond to them. And this is great, by the way, with emails or text messages. Say, did you mean for that to sound? Did you mean for that to sound rude? Did you mean for that to sound as rude as it did? Did you mean for that to sound offensive? Did you mean to embarrass me? Did you mean to sound short? Like whenever you do that, it not only mirrors for them what they did and said and how it came across, it also allows them a chance to fix it. If in fact they didn't, maybe I'm just reading the text message in a really negative way. And me saying, hey, did you mean to sound upset? They go, oh, no, I didn't mean it. What I meant was, and it was actually just a misunderstanding. But it's avoiding the chances of creating knots in the line that creates communication.
That is so powerful, especially with young people. I've got 2 teenage daughters, and sometimes they'll come home and there would have been something that's happened at school, and a girl might have said something unkind to them, and that is such good advice. And my youngest daughter actually came home the other day, and I drew again on some of your wisdoms with that pausing. And it's hard to pause because she wants to jump in, because you do want to jump in and fill that space and react when someone says something unkind to you. But I said to her, next time, ask them to repeat it, as you just said. Or another one that I think is that you suggest too is, how do you expect me to respond to that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you expect me to respond to that? Also, like, how do you feel when you say that to me?
Oh, yes.
those typically do it. How do you feel saying that to me right now?
Oh.
And that usually gets it. There's a lot of those that I like. There's a lot of those. I'm surprised you went with that. That's a weird thing to say. I've also, there was one where it was a junior high girl. She'd come to one of the signings that I'd had, and I said, what you need to do, next time this girl says something is, sounds like you're just really obsessed with me. and she loved it. It's like, if she keeps saying all this stuff, I was like, you need to say, you know what, I'm beginning to think you're obsessed with me.
Oh, and, that is good. That is an absolute cracker. I used to do television for many years, and people would sometimes come up to me but say sort of things like, "You're very different off the television." And I wasn't quite sure how to take that. I'd be thinking, is that a compliment or are you insulting me? And when I was younger, I used to jump in to try and fill that space. And now I sort of say thank you if they say that, because I think, well, how else can I frame that? If I just go, oh, thank you very much, and I'll expect that you're saying that as a nice thing to me.
I think that's the right move because it keeps you from going into that mind game of, well, what did they mean? And having to like filter that out through that person and just choosing with a smile and a laugh of, well, thank you. Then you've answered it for them, right? That who you are is much more bubbly and personable and not what they expected. And I think that's just saying, well, thank you is the right move.
Now, we've spoken about family, relationships, our kids. What about in the workplace? Because that's a different energy going into the workplace and dealing with difficult people at work, people that you don't like, or people that don't like you. How do you get on with them?
What I teach is for people that don't like you, you just act like you like them. Because what it does is it doesn't give them a reason. It doesn't give others who are looking a reason either. Now, I'm not trying to say like you need to just take it or lay down and it's like you're trying to be fake. That's not what I'm telling you. I don't want you to be fake. What I'm saying is if they have some kind of problem or you think they have some kind of problem, I would much rather you be in alignment with who you are and choosing to say, you know what, regardless of what somebody else does, I'm going to choose to like them. Like we feel like just because somebody doesn't like us, we have to automatically go, okay, well, I guess since they don't like me, I don't like them. That rarely does anything. Instead, if it's just you talk to them like you do, talk to them like you like them, talk to them like you can still be respectful. Now you can limit your time around them. You can get really factual with how you respond to them instead of trying to work in drama or something passive aggressive of like, yeah, oh, you want these documents? Yeah, I guess if you want. Like, like if you're trying to be really snarky about it to signal that, hey, I don't like you either. That kind of cycle just spirals. Like all you're doing when you do that is confirming in their mind that they have reasons not to like you. Like you're not presenting them counter evidence. Instead, you're just affirming all the more. In fact, it might be they may like you and you just think that they don't. And because you think that they don't, and now you're behaving as if they don't. Now, you know what? It's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy that they're not going to, because they go, what's up with this person? Why are they not being all that nice to me? So to me, it's like, don't give somebody else an excuse to, lower your own integrity. And more so, the people around you may have no clue of the background story, the hidden issue between the two of you. And if you act snarky towards them, it is only going to reflect on you, not on them. So to me, it just like blows my mind that somebody would try and put down their character at the expense of a misunderstanding.
How did you get so wise? Have you always been so wise?
I do not think that I'm wise. I do think I know that what I've been taught and what I share is nothing short of a gift that I did not deserve. And so I have friends in my life that, they have a gift for like fixing things, right? I have a buddy who, it doesn't matter what's broken in the house. He just knows. He just knows how to do it. I have a buddy who in high school knew economics. He just get it. He just got it. I'd struggled all the time in that. This is my gift. And so I find that what I try to share is what comes just naturally towards me, and I get to share what I think will actually help people. And the one thing I would say is a knack, what I have a good knack for, is taking a whole bunch of very complex information and then pushing it into like 3 sentences. So I like taking 3 chapters of a book and turning it into 3 sentences. I'd say that would be a very talent that I have for, which helps in communication.
You say, though, you don't deserve that gift.
Yeah, I don't think I do. I think there's things in life it's also tied to my faith of like, there are so many things I didn't deserve to have. And a lot of it too is what's been passed down to me by family and what I've observed in my life experiences, in my childhood, and my DNA, and also a lot of my mistakes, right? I mean, there's so many things that I've learned because I've done the wrong thing. From marriage, I've done an incredible amount of wrong things. From parenthood, I've done some really wrong things. When it comes to being a son or a brother, I've done some wrong things. When I've been an attorney and I shepherd and guide clients, I've done things that I'm like, there's a better way to do that. So it's taking all of these things that it's not so much that I succeeded the first time. I got disciplined on what's my lesson. What's the takeaway? What's the lesson? And so a lot of these are, hey, you know how to turn that phrase? Well, let me teach you how I've done it. And hey, how you position that sentence, if you just flip it, that's going to have a whole lot more impact. Or if I take the word that you're using at the end, and if I put it at the very beginning, watch what happens. It's because I've seen that, and I tinker with that in my head all the time. It's like people who write songs, they think of songs all the time. I think of how to word sentences all the time. That's a gift.
It's a beautiful gift, and how we communicate changes our world and changes the world of people around us. With the lessons that you're wanting to teach people, what is one thing you could leave with us all? Because I find sometimes I forget. I might be, when I'm in the midst of a situation that is difficult, I'll forget those very tools that you are recommending. Is there a tip that you can leave us with that can help either ground us, or is that one most important thing?
It would be to not be afraid to take time out in a conversation, because there has been so much damage done that the conversation started in the wrong direction. And instead of stopping and saying, hey, you know what? This isn't going how I want it to. This isn't, I'm not approaching this conversation the way that I know I want to. You see how much pain you can avoid when you stop it as soon as you realize it's going south, and going, okay, hold up. My intention is this. What is your intention? And you get to see, oh, okay, this is where we went wrong. That's not what I meant at all. And fix that, rather than digging in your feet and deciding you're going to just go the wrong direction for 10 more miles or kilometers or whatever. Like it's not going to, if you can be really quick on the fixes, to do a turnaround, to do what we call here a U-turn, when you can just say, you know what, let me time out. Can I start that over? I promise you, when you're in that hard conversation and you find that it's not going as well as you want, do not be afraid. It is a strength, not a weakness, to say, can we redo this? Can I start this again? The other person's not going to tell you no. Listen to me. They are not going to say, no, you can't. You have to keep talking just like you are. They're going to say, yeah, no, that's fine. And you get to breathe and center yourself and reapproach this in a way that is different than the way that you started. And that is not called, trying to be perfect. Perfection is not relatable. Struggle is. And so when you can show them that this is a conversation that's important to you and they see the struggle, and you can say, I'm struggling this because this really matters to me and I want to get my words right, they will be 1,000 times more engaged and take it more seriously than if you decide to just cross your arms and talk for 30 more minutes in the wrong direction.
Oh, Jefferson, my shoulders are continuing to drop. I'm continuing to breathe.
That's right.
Thank you
That's
for your wisdom, for your lessons. I can't wait to hear you in Australia when you come and share those life lessons for us all and the tools that you are giving us to have these hard conversations, which can help not only our lives, but the lives of people around us. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. And stay tuned for Jefferson After Dark after his kids go to bed, where I just talk in a low voice. That's all we do.
But it's even
Awesome.
more relaxing. Perhaps that can
That's
be
right.
like another
Exactly. If you need to go
communication
to
tip
bed,
for you.
yeah, I need to put out like a sleep app where all I do is just read the newspaper or something. I think that's what we need to do. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm absolutely honored.
Jefferson Fisher is the calm voice that we all need now. I know that I am going to be using some more of his tips. Let me know what you've learnt from him as well. Now, Jefferson is going to be touring in Australia and New Zealand in July. We'll have all of those details in our show notes for you. And remember, we are now on YouTube now, so spread the word. I want to get more of you loving the Jess Rowe Big Talk Show on YouTube.